Bon matin! Morning! I'm Morning Wiz, and I have on my cape because if there's air conditioning going on, it's just freezing. I love warm. Anywho, something occurred to me and I started thinking about it, and I wanted to, I guess, make a video before it left my mind, and I didn't want to risk trying to remember it later. But I was thinking about our sermon from last night, our secret teachings of Jesus, and we were going over the portion in the Gospel of Philip, the inner and the outer. And we were actually doing a part 2 from the week before. So if you're like, what are you talking about, all of this? Like, you can go back and watch those videos. Just by going to my channel and going to the videos tab, and you can see everything that I've uploaded, or you can go to the vlogs playlist. But we were talking about having affinity with the light, and the light is eternal. And eternal is not speaking as much to a quantum of time as it is a state of perpetual, sustaining consistency. So, like, think of the sun, how it's always shining no matter what. And I know that, like, technically, like, the sun fluctuates and it has, like, solar storms and electromagnetic flares and whatnot. But, like, pretend something that is even more stable and consistent than the sun. That is the eternal light. It's just this perpetual, it does not fluctuate, it does not change, it is not changed by its environment. It is the cause, not the effect. So our work, our spiritual work, our inner work, our soul work, the ego work, is the purpose of it is to create more affinity in the vessel, us, with the light, so we can be in resonance and have that divine union, the marriage of the upper and the lower, and the integration and the embodiment of the wisdom that we learn, and then we become different people and we show up differently in the world and have our being and move differently, right? As a result. The divine marriage of the masculine and feminine, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Meaning, if you remember the glyph, you know, you'll start to understand when I'm pointing at things with my hands, you'll remember kind of the references. So as the consciousness comes through, that's the upper coming into the lower, meaning the divine realms being embodied in the material realm. Thy kingdom come. So the kingdom isn't necessarily a place. It's a state of being. It's a state of being in absolute fulfillment, peace, harmony, certainty, completion. And having the kingdom is inheriting, like, all of the kingdom, the power, you know, the glory. So jumping to the Garden of Eden. When we were in the Garden of Eden, before the fall of man, before we separated from the Creator, and the ego started to create shells, like we resisted so that we could have a process of earning the light, so that we didn't short circuit, and so that we could appreciate all that we were gaining in the fullness, and to go through the process of soul correction. So in the Garden of Eden, when Adam Kadmon, or mankind, the human spirit, the human souls, were born into the physical material realm, we separated from the higher states of consciousness, and we were shrouded in a veil that hid the innermost so that we could tap into the memory of it, but we still had free will, right? There's still a process to have that level of faith and certainty and emunah. And it's not just like we're just given it and it's a cheat. Because in the garden before the fall, before we ate the fruit and started to have that separation and that forgetfulness, we were totally connected. But it was the first phase of creation. It was a passive receiving that we didn't ask for. It was just given to us, right? So we hadn't developed the skills to maintain that essence of the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is a state of being that is in harmony. Everything is perfected. Everything is correct and in flow. Peace, goodness, fertile, ease, no pain, no suffering, no resistance. So we were given this as as babies, as mankind, as humankind were like in their infancy. And we didn't know, it was sort of involuntary, that state of connection, that openness. And so we didn't know how to create it or be co-creators with the divine or participate in that or have sovereignty over the inner kingdom. So by going through this process, the Garden of Eden, we actually elevate from that when Jesus comes back and talks about, inheriting the kingdom of heaven is within you. When we've fallen from the garden and now we have to overcome the challenge of our ego, we transcend even the state that we were in the Garden of Eden, because then we have gone through a process and we've cut our teeth and cut our claws and learned how to fend for ourselves in the wild. So then we become the master of our It goes back to a Seinfeld joke where they all try to go like a whole summer without masturbating, and whoever got there was called the master of their domain, I think. But we're learning the process of self-mastery. And so when you are able to, in any conditions going on out in the world, be able to maintain your state of certainty that it's all good. It's all gonna work itself out. Things are gonna be fine. The Creator has all this under control, and really the only thing that the turbulence is doing is testing me and growing me to see if I can actually maintain stability, right? Can you maintain? So once we start maintaining, yes, we do have these challenges, but we can meet them with more level-headedness and use wisdom and discernment and feel certain and feel secure and feel held and guided, right? And so that is living in the kingdom. That's the rapture. That's heaven, right? It's something that you develop and cultivate within you, and it's not dependent on the winds of change, the storms that come and pass, right? You just weather it. And it's not to say we never have any emotions or any more ups and downs, but on the deepest level, at the innermost level, we know that the moods of the surface, the choppy surface waters, will be still again when the weather changes. And so deep down, we have a stillness and we have a certainty and a calmness because we have faith beyond reason, because we have opened up and learned and know how the machinery of the beautiful machinery of existence works. And so once we know how to participate within that, we can't unknow it. You can't like once you're the ruler of your kingdom, it's like, that's it. You got it. Like nobody can kick you out unless you completely forget everything and choose to turn your back on it, right? And that's just foolish darkness. That's evil. Yeah, so the Garden of Eden is a state of consciousness that we were given passively. We passively received that. It was not as elevated as when we practiced restriction, fell using our free will, recovered from this, overcame our weaknesses, and we actually, evolved and grew and were able to like hunt out in the wild on our own, right? It's like almost like I keep getting this image of like these like young baby animals that, they're born knowing how to walk, but like they still have to go through a process of learning how to fend for themselves. So when we were in the garden, it was like a nursery. But as we've grown, we have been excused from the garden. We left the nursery. We were thrown out of the nest. And we've learned to fly. And so once we have done that process, we inherit the kingdom. And our Father has many mansions in the kingdom. And those are states of consciousness, states of being. All right, you guys. I don't know where this all tied up, if there's like an overarching theme. But I just wanted to talk about that while I could. And I hope you enjoy my zit and my morning hair and my cape because I'm freezing whenever there's air conditioning. All right, y'all. Ciao.